Welcome to another episode of the Rugged Homestead. You can see we're in the middle of a little bit of a snowstorm, and I want to test my soil so I know what the pH level is, the NPK ratios of the soil are. Got myself a soil testing kit. I wasn't quite expecting this snowstorm, so I'm going to go out there, collect some samples from the bed, let them dry out a little bit from the snow, and then we'll get around to testing the soil. The kit recommends you use a sample of soil that's from about 3 inches deep. So I've got a bulb planter here. I'll go down about 3 inches, take the soil out, and then use my trowel to get the sample that I want. So okay, this will be number 1. Okay, probably not going to need anywhere near that amount of soil, but just in case. So that's I call my bed A. It's about 21 inches wide by about 12 feet long. That's my garlic there. This is bed B, which is 4 feet by 10 foot. And then bed C, which is similar to bed A, 21 inches wide by 12 feet long. Actually, I think it's 15 feet long, not 12 feet. So now go over to bed B and do the same thing. Take that core out. There we go. And now move over to bed C. One more time. Now this soil is soil I've actually built up over the years, and I add to it various natural fertilizers and compost. They've all got a 1 to 2 inch layer on top of compost from my leaf mold, as well as the chicken compost, and it's been sitting there for a year. So I'm gonna go collect all my the other 2 samples, and then we'll go inside. So I have this RapiTest Soil Test Kit from Luster Leaf. Got it at Home Depot. I think it was about 15 bucks. Looks like you can do quite a number of tests with the kit. I think it comes with 10 different tablets that you use for each of the tests. So it'd be like 10 for the phosphorus, 10 for the potash, nitrogen, and the pH test. So let's open it up and see. This is, like I said, the first time I'm going to be testing my soil ever. So I've seen other people do it, and I figured, why not? It's a good start to the year. And with the blizzard outside, it's a good use of my time now before I might have to go out and use the snowblower. And so this gives you an idea of where all the different vegetables and fruits and flowers like their pH. And I remember reading at some point that they didn't have like a refill kit, so you basically had to go out and buy a new kit. But I see now on here they do offer a replacement kit. Of course, it's $12 for a kit, which is only a few dollars less than the entire kit itself. But I guess it's better. Okay, we don't need that. So it says to avoid touching the soil with your hands. Test different areas of your soil as it may differ according to past cultivation, underlying differences, or localized condition. And it says to take individual tests on different samples rather than combining all the soils together and testing it. So that's what I did. I've got the 3 different samples from the 3 different beds, and had it not been the start of a blizzard out there, I might have actually taken samples from different ends of the bed too. But this will give me a good idea as to at least to where to start. So the pH test, I think, is this dark green one. This is phosphorus, the blue. The purple looks like nitrogen. And the orange is the potash or potassium. Got the eyedropper. And then each of the, here we go. Right, so K, potassium, or potash, phosphorus, nitrogen, and this is the pH test. Although it probably doesn't matter. I'm going to sift the soil. I mean, I'm not expecting that there's going to be much in there anyway, but I figure a fine soil mix or a fine soil test would be better. Now on these little kits, you're not actually filling very high with the soil. On the pH test, it says you only need this much soil in here, and then the rest is filled with water. This should be enough for all 4 tests, at least I hope so, because I got over an inch of snow outside now. So for the pH test, it says to remove the cap. So remove the cap. Okay, fill the test chamber with soil to the fill line. So again, it's not all that much. 2 chambers in here. There's this real small one and then the larger one. So of course you got to try and fill the smaller one with the soil. So, all right. So I've filled the up to the mark with soil, and now I have to fill the rest with water. Holding the capsule. Oh, first I have to put the capsule, the green capsule. Carefully separate the 2 halves. Like, it's not difficult enough to get it into that small hole, but now they make it damn near impossible to get the 2 halves apart. Now what I decided to do is I'm going to open it up on this card, this index card, and then pour it in there. That might be easiest, because it sure as hell isn't easy getting that out of there. And I was supposed to do that over the little hole too. All right, so now we take this and we pour it into the chamber. It says to fill the water to that fill line using this dropper that they gave us. It just says add water to the fill line. Fit the cap back on top. And then shake thoroughly. It says allow the soil to settle and color to develop for about a minute. So we'll see what happens while we're waiting for that to settle. You're supposed to take a cup of soil and to 5 cups of water. You can use either smaller or greater amounts as long as it's the 5-to-1 ratio. I'll be filling up the container with the one container with garden soil A, one container with garden soil B, and then also for C, and then we'll test it. It is changing color, as you can see. Looks tough to tell with the it's definitely not in the greenish area, I mean the gold area of 6.0 to 6.5. It's got the greenish tint to it, but it's not as dark as 7. So I'm going to say it's somewhere between 6.5 and 6.7, which I think is pretty good for most vegetables. It does say daylight is best. So that actually makes it much closer to the 7.0. Still, I think it's between the 6.5 and the 7.0, but I think it's probably around 6.7, 6.8 I would give it, but definitely in the neutral range. All right, I've sifted soil from bed B. I'll take a scoop out. So we'll let this stand for a minute, and then we'll be back. So this is from bed B, and this is definitely a darker green than the other one was, probably putting it much more into the 7.0 range than it was previously. So now I'll do bed C. This one is also within the 6.5 to 7.0 range. So it looks like we're fine on pH, so we don't have to adjust that level at all. So what I've opted to do is go with 10 tablespoons of distilled water in each of the containers. So what that means is I'm going to need 2 tablespoons of soil from bed A, and then thoroughly shake or stir the water. So I've got these old caps. And I'll put these on the containers. So let me shake these up thoroughly. That seems pretty good for that one. Make sure. Okay, so now I have to let these stand anywhere from 1 hour to 24 hours, depending on the type of soil that it has. It says a fine clay will take much longer. I definitely don't have a fine clay, but I'm, in that little test thing for the pH, it really separated pretty quickly. So maybe it'll take just an hour. We'll see, but when the water clears up and the soil settles, I'll come back. Okay, so take off the lid and using the dropper, gonna fill up. Tells you to fill up both sides of the container. Once you put the capsule into the container, into the test kit, it says to let it sit for 10 minutes and no more. So again, try to open up this capsule without making a mess. This seems like it'll comes apart a lot easier than the pH one did. And the materials pour out easier too. And it doesn't look like I got any into the other chamber. So it says to press that on firmly, make sure it's on tight, and then shake this vigorously. So color will develop, it says, over the course of 10 minutes, but don't let it go for longer than 10 minutes. So we'll put that to the side. Now I'll do the same thing with the other tests. Got one here for the potash. So it'll be the same process. And just to show you, the water is actually rather clear in the chamber. So allowing it to sit for 48 hours, I think, was a good call. So that's some pretty clear water. Probably wouldn't want to drink it, but it's clear. So now we'll get the orange tablet and we'll put that in the container. And we'll let this one sit for 10 minutes. Last test is for phosphorus, and like the others, we'll fill the container. So the timer has gone off now on the nitrogen tests, and I'm gonna say I need nitrogen in my bed A. It's clearly clear. I'll be adding blood meal to bed A. So the time is up for the potash. And this one's also looking kind of long. I'm going to bring this one over to the window to have a look. So this one also looks like it's in the depleted range. At best, it's deficient. So even though these beds have a layer of compost on top of them, down below where the roots are going to be of the plant, there's no nutrients right now. So let's see what happens with the phosphorus. Interestingly, the phosphorus is somewhere between adequate and deficient. And I'm going to say it's tending towards the deficient, but it's the one that seems to actually be the best of the three. So what I'm actually probably going to do is put down a balanced fertilizer into the garden soil, and then add some blood meal and bone meal into it. So one will be more of a fast-acting fertilizer, while the others will be more slow-acting. And let's see if the other two beds come up with different results. Okay, these are the results of bed B. This looks like it's in the deficient area on the nitrogen. I'm sorry, on the potash. It's somewhere between, I would say, deficient and adequate. Maybe not. Maybe it's in the depleted section. It's kind of tough to tell. But it's going to be deficient, so it's going to need potash. Similarly with nitrogen again, it's in the depleted section. So we'll need to cover up for that. And then with the phosphorus, it's a bolder color, though it doesn't match anything on that scale. It's more green than blue. So I'm going to go with that there's sufficient phosphorus in the soil, but that still going to put down a balanced fertilizer on bed B. So this is the results from bed C. Again, I think we're in deficient territory. This is potash, which actually, I still think it's in the deficient. Might not show it on the camera, but I think it's in the deficient territory there. It's close to adequate, I would actually say. It's somewhere in between there. And then the phosphorus, again, it might not show up on the camera, but I think this is deficient in this one. So where it was adequate in the other two beds, it's in deficiency in bed C. So bed C definitely needs a balanced fertilizer added to it. So there's the test. For me, it was surprising that all three beds were deficient in most, if not all, of the nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus. Potassium seemed adequate, or close to adequate anyway, in two of the three beds. So I'm going to, as I said, place a balanced fertilizer across all three beds and maybe supplement it then with some blood meal and some bone meal as well. As for the RapiTest Soil Test Kit, I think it's okay. I think it's helpful. I think the mechanics of it can be improved. When you got some ham hocks like me trying to open up those little tablets over that tiny little test tube, it can be difficult. And that little pipette that they give you to fill the test tubes, they could have a little bit more volume sucked up into that thing than what it comes with. Otherwise, it's pretty tedious, 15, 20 sucks of the water to fill up those tubes. But otherwise, assuming there is no expiration date on those testing chemicals, and that's why the beds are coming up deficient, assuming that they're all okay, then I would think it's a worthwhile test. I've never tested my soil before, as I mentioned previously, and so this was a little bit of an eye-opener for me. Maybe the addition now every year, as I'm doing, of the compost to the beds will build that up over time. But I'll end up revisiting the tests later on in the year and see how they're performing, whether the levels have risen. So pH in the beds was fine for all of them. I was going over the list of vegetables and what they needed, and I was surprised to learn that, I wasn't surprised to learn that most vegetables need anywhere from around 6 to 7 plus in pH. That I was surprised to learn that herbs need a more acidic soil. It says anywhere from 5 to 6 for most herbs. And also potatoes need a more acidic soil. I think it said 5.5 to 6 was the preferred range. So when I plant my potatoes in the buckets this year, I'm going to make sure that the soil is a little more acidic. Or I'm actually going to test it, because I do use peat moss in the buckets for the potatoes. So that might provide the necessary acidity for the potatoes. But I'm going to test now. And it was good to learn that anyway, that they needed it. If you've actually tested your soils before, let me know how yours came out and whether you've actually used this RapiTest before and what your results were with it. Did you find the test kit to be a good value for you, and did it give you decent results? All right, if you like what you see, give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you'd already do so, and click that notification bell, and that way you'll be notified right away when videos like this are posted. Okay, thanks for watching.